las 12 no los cuenta. No la llamen al jangueo si no quiere que mienta. Estoy escuchando el número uno en venta. Por eso con nosotros nadie inventa. Me siento como un bichote en los 90.
Welcome back to Your Amigas podcast. Yo soy Denise.
And I'm Marilyn.
And we are Your Amigas.
Yes.
Don't forget, like, comment, share, subscribe. You know what to do. Todas las cositas. We really want to build a community. So just, talk to us. We're just trying to get to know y'all.
Yes. So today's episode is going to be a little bit personal. Something that you can probably relate to. Hopefully all of our episodes are relatable, but this one may be a little bit different. We're just going to be talking about our different worlds, our identities, specifically how it's been to shift between our two cultures, our two identities, and how that looks for each of us.
Yeah. Maybe a lot of you can relate to this. I know we for sure can. Las dos somos mexicanas. Also living like in the U.S. What we had to do in order to belong to two different worlds. Meet expectations, navigating our different cultures, language, like el acento, our Spanglish y todo eso, code switching. Sometimes there's like spaces where you can maybe feel like you're too much or you don't really belong and what that feels like. So it is going to be a little more vulnerable, but just wanting to share and see if this is relatable to anybody.
Yes. So this episode, we're going to be honoring the various versions of ourselves, the ones that had to grow up a little faster and the ones that we are still becoming. So let's get into it.
Yay. So really living between two worlds, how fun. I grew up in Mexico. I think I've shared about this in other episodes, but I think my first memories come from Mexico, and one of my biggest identities, or I feel like I'm a Mexican from Mexico, but obviously that's not really the case because pues vivo en California.
Yeah.
And whenever I do get to go back, that is something, but I also recognize how much I have been immersed into the culture being in the U.S. and California and the Bay Area specifically. I grew up, hella Bay, and that is so different compared to LA type of, identity or culture. And so I think that's something that's really different. I think something that really stood out to me was just how much I wanted to belong to being accepted and being Mexicana, because even though here I couldn't relate to a lot of people, I had to definitely adapt because I didn't speak English when I came here. So obviously it was just the trying to work my way up to know the language, not having an accent, being in special classes in order to get rid of that, how I was going to still manage and talk to my parents. How am I supposed to talk to my parents when they speak Spanish and then at school they're telling me don't speak Spanish. And then my brother, being younger than me, he definitely perdió como todo su idioma, really. So then I had to really be that bridge for my parents, or mainly my mom, because my dad ended up speaking English, luckily, but my mom didn't have the opportunity to learn or have enough time to really go to school y quedarse ahí to learn. So then I think definitely the language and just culturally, my brother growing up here lost that. So, and I didn't want to lose that because I saw how much my mom struggled, right? And also because I identified so much with Mexico, because I remember leaving and I remember saying bye, and I remember that those were happy times for me. So I just really wanted to keep to that identity of myself, but also being here and growing up hella Bay Area, you put Too Short, you put E40, you put that hyphy era, that was also super me, and it was just it was a lot having to go to different ones and having to adapt and like code switch. I mean, I didn't learn about code switching till like I was older.
Yeah.
But it just felt like I didn't really belong anywhere. And I think when you're like young or like being like a teenager and you're still like developing and you're trying to like understand where you are and who you are in the world, like that is like another layer on top of it. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, similar, like living here, growing up in the Bay Area, in Pittsburgh specifically, and I know that in San Jose area where you grew up, it's very diverse. The Bay Area in general is very diverse. Pittsburgh specifically, super diverse. There's everything. Everyone is there. So for me, it was never a surprise to see Polynesian people. It was never a surprise to see Asian people. It was never a surprise to see Indian people, Black people, white people, Latino people, obviously. So I feel like I got the best of both worlds, and the experience, the Bay Area culture, like that's a culture to be proud of.
Oh, for sure.
I definitely feel like it's a culture to be proud of. And, you know, I was able to experience a lot of, you know, things that like our parents did back in their motherland, they brought with them, and we were able to do that here. So it's like, no sentí que me faltó más, you know, and then also like being very privileged of being able to go back to Mexico and visit with my parents and have us all be there together. I was able to, you know, nurture the family relationships that I have in Mexico and go back and forth today as an adult. Like eso es algo que, you know, nadie me lo puede quitar. And that's something that I was able to do very intentionally. And then here in the Bay Area, like I was also very intentional of like cultivating relationships and creating a community for myself here. So I never felt como que me faltaba algo. Like yo siempre he sentido that I belong both here and in Mexico.
I will say Maryland has, everybody knows. Okay, one time we went to SantaCon and then we made like a little.
It was in San Jose.
It was in San Jose. So we were like, oh, okay, Maryland's like, oh, I don't know anybody here, right?
No,
and then,
hold on. Before we left, it was four of us. It was Denise's prima, her boyfriend, Denise, and I. And before we left the house for SantaCon, Denise was like, oh, let's play a game. The first person to run into somebody that they know has to, like, we all have to take a shot, or like that person has to buy a shot.
And then Mary was like, yeah, okay, I don't know
like,
anybody
in
San Jose.
Yeah.
And then little do we know, the first bar that we get there, I think like ni tenía como like 10 minutos, and then someone was like, somebody comes up to Marilyn, and they're like, oh, Marilyn. I was like, no que no.
I know. And it was crazy because that guy that came up to me, like I know him from church in Pittsburgh, and I'm like, what are you doing out here?
And he was like, what are you doing out here?
He's like, I live in Hayward now, like ya está todo, you know, casado, tiene hijos, like you know, and like he and I were in the choir together in like my parish, and so it's like yo lo conozco a él de niño, and it's like here he was at SantaCon, and here I was, like here we are, both grown people. That was so funny, but I was like, ain't no fucking way I'm gonna run into somebody.
But then I think that's like the really nice thing, because you are so involved in your community, and you definitely made that effort. To be involved in your community and make like Pittsburgh like home, where really you know so many people, and so many people will come up to you and like recognize you, and I like, eso está súper bonito. I think if I had that, I would also be like, oh, this is home, like
definitely,
eso está bonito.
Definitely. And like, you know, that saying of la India María, no soy ni de aquí ni de allá. Yo nunca he sentido eso. Yo soy de aquí y también soy de allá. Y nobody could tell me otherwise. And if somebody, like, I feel like when I go to Mixtlan, por más que yo trate de acoplarme, por más que yo trate de integrarme a la gente, like, I will always be looked at as, like, you know, una norteña, like that, que vive en el extranjero, que vive en los Estados Unidos, aunque yo esté haciendo todo por mezclarme con la gente, like I'm always going to be viewed as that, and that's okay. That's none of my business. Like if somebody wants to be like, oh, she ain't, you know,
she ain't from here,
she ain't Mixlense enough, that's none of my business. That's your problem. That's a you problem. That's not a me problem. Like I'm from here, and you ain't gonna tell me otherwise, you know? So like I know I belong here, I know I belong there, and for me that's enough.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I think I'm
Bitch can't tell me nothing.
I love that about you. Y también como ayuda. Yo creo que like now I look at it like that. Like I'm not so I don't feel like as bad, or I don't feel like the pressure to have to prove to anybody that I am Mexican enough, or I am like Bay enough, or I am this enough. And I think that's like it was just so freaking hard.
Yeah.
Because when you're trying to like adapt and you're trying to, and I think just the migration part of it is just really hard, because you're trying to play small, you're trying to be like, oh, like, is this okay, like I fit in, and you kind of just like lose your identity. And I think also just growing, like I didn't understand, y por eso como me confundía, because yeah, it was just like I wanted to go back home to Mexico, but yet I was like stuck here, and I was like, but I can't find anybody that I can relate to. And I think that's where I like ended up feeling like stuck, and having to like adapt and try to find like where I belonged in the world.
Yeah. And another point is like, when did you first realize that you were code switching? For me, I realized that I was code switching at a very young age. Back in preschool, this preschool that I went to in Pittsburgh, I had this bestie. Her name was Daisy. She was also Mexican. Yeah, she also had big curly hair like you. Le gustan las del cabello rizo. She and I would play, jugábamos a las muñecas with the dolls that they had at the school, and she and I would play in Spanish. Like jugábamos y like ella hablaba español también. And the second we started playing with other kids, or the second that we had to like, talk with the teachers, I would switch to English automatically. And the teachers would go and like tell my mom that like, oh, like, Marilyn plays with her friend Daisy, and we hear them talking to each other in Spanish, and they're talking about the Barbies and the dollies in Spanish. But then once we step in, or other children, like they have to interact with other children, it's in English. And I still remember Daisy. She was super nice. She had big curly hair. She had 2 older siblings. No sé qué será de ella el día de hoy. Daisy, if you
wishing
see
you
this,
well.
Yes, if you remember me,
I remember you.
Pittsburgh, California, Martin Luther King, junior school. Now it's a junior high, but I remember que jugábamos a las muñecas, platicábamos, and that's when I started to code switch. And it was just instinct. I don't know if it was like survival. I guess it was, porque en mi casa pues puro español. Yo aprendí inglés a través de mi hermano, porque mi hermano es mayor que yo, año y medio, and he learned English at school. He had a little bit more of a harder time because he was the first one to go to school. And then, once he started to learn English and he was watching shows in English, then I would watch cartoons in English too. And then that's how I learned English. So by the time I went to preschool a year later after him, I already knew English, but I also had like my español todavía. And so when I found this amiga Daisy, it was like, ay, pues hablamos y jugamos a las muñecas en español. Yeah, see, so that's really where I first noticed it.
I mean, I feel like I definitely noticed it like at a younger age. I mean, I think what validated the whole me learning about code switching was like obviously like in college, I don't know, like in a psychology class, or like an ethnic studies class or something, that I learned about it. And like the feeling of validation that I had was just like, oh my gosh, like what do you mean? Like this, like there's a name for it. I'm not the only one that's like going back and forth, or because it ends up being like exhausting. But I think when I first really like noticed it, then now like reflecting, was probably when I would have to like interpret for my mom. Because, and then they were like in medical spaces, right? So it's like talking like one way for like my mom and interpreting, and then like reading into also like her, como like su body language, and then cómo se sentía, y a lo mejor no estaba diciendo everything, so like very much her emotion, and then me trying to like be there for her for that, and then going into this medical space with like adults, and I barely fucking know how to like speak English, and trying to like also like advocate for my mom. So it was just, I feel like it was like different when I was still like a kid. So switching there, and then going from like being with like my friends and then being in class and then, you know, talking to like family or even like, would you count like code switching at like, so if you go back to like Mixtlan, do you think like that's also considered like code switching, or is it only when like maybe like you're
Yeah, no, absolutely.
oh, okay, well then for sure.
Yeah.
Going back to like Mexico and then them being like, oh, but like, you know, like cumbias or like, oh,
Yeah.
you know this. Oh wow, your Spanish is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
You listen to that. You know, like I think it was just very much that me always being questioned.
Yes.
Part of it would like throw me off. And that's why I would also like second guess myself and like, am I good enough?
Yeah.
Am I
Like la India, mira,
yeah.
soy de aquí, soy de allá, like, am I?
Yeah, and that's a lot how I felt because I was like, puta, no soy ni de aquí, because I don't fully identify myself as like US, even though I was like, you know, pretty much, I've been here majority of my life. Solo viví en México por unos cuantos años. So tengo más tiempo acá que allá. And then over there, once I'm there, I feel like I belong. But then being questioned by my family, even though I know they don't, like, it's genuine, I know they don't do it out of, you know, like, oh, wow, like, si escuchan eso allá. It's a genuine question, you know, porque se imaginan algo más, pero I internalized that because I was already being questioned here in the U.S. So then when I go back home and then I'm finally like, oh, this is home, you know, also being questioned there, or be like, oh, but like, pero tú eres like, but you're from there, or you're like, me caga, like, oh, like, gringa, puta, no me digas eso, you know, or just like, what do you mean? But you guys are also gringos. And it's just like, no, like certain terminology that maybe is used like in other countries to like speak for everybody in the US, like Latinos and other cultures don't identify as that.
Right.
Like that's the white man. Like that's white
for
people's
us,
different.
In our head, the white man is someone who is Caucasian, but when we go to our, you know, to the motherland, like for them, we are that. We are gringos.
Because
you know?
We live here. And it's just like, no, wait, don't
like
do that.
Like with like me imagino like when we were in Costa Rica and how, you know, Ashe was saying los shanquis, you know, like for them, if they were to, like, if we were to go to Argentina to visit her, let's just say, and we're like, somos mexicanas, but then they know that we live in California, pues son shanquis.
Yeah,
so, you know, they're Yankees as well. And it's like, I ain't no motherfucking Yankee Doodle, bitch. I'm Mexican.
I was like,
The fuck?
The fuck? Mer?
Yeah.
Oh, hell no. Yeah. I'm like, hold my hoops. Nah, I have my little ass hoops.
Oh, I didn't even put my hoops on.
Yeah. So then do like that, again, having to prove yourself that you're not un shanky, or like that you're not like un gringo, or that you're not this or that. You do know how to freaking, and like, you do know the traditions, that your Spanish is on top of it, you know, you're fluent. And then también en inglés, que tú sabes esto, and that, oh God, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man. Yeah. And that's why I like, I think when I first met you, I think that was one of my favorite things about you. And I remember, I think I did like this activity for a staff meeting where I was like, choose somebody and then like say something that like you like about them. And then I did, yours was my example where I was like, Marilyn, something that I love about you is that you are unapologetically you. And I me gusta because like I want to adopt that. And I feel like I am for the most part, but it took me a while. But then like seeing, you know, like you being like, I don't care, like, y el que quiera decir algo, pues that's none of my business, eso es un reflejo como de ellos. But you know, and you like own it, and I love that. So I'm just, estoy bien fría,
I know, I'm hella warm. Yeah, and that sort of takes us into the next point of like feeling too much in a professional or a mainstream space, or feeling like you're not enough in cultural or family spaces. And like you just said, I am too much in general. Yes, I might be, you know, in a professional setting, I may be seen as being bold, loud, or expressive, but that's just because I am very confident in my abilities. I know what I bring to the table. My boldness is not a flaw. Instead of shrinking myself, I have learned to own who I am. And if I am perceived to be as too much in a professional setting, then you just need to expand the way that you perceive me. It's not my fault, and I'm not going to make myself smaller to make you feel comfortable. I'm very confident in what I know, and even if, and something that you'll learn in the, now that you're doing the school for interpretation, that I learned when I was doing school for medical interpreting is, and it's good and it's not good. It's like fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I will make you believe that I belong. Like, I belong here, whether I do or I don't. Like, if that's what I'm trying to convey in that moment, like, I belong here. I know what I'm talking about. Most of the times I do. So it's not like I'm faking it. But, I am too much, and it can be seen as a lot, but that's okay. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to embrace it. And like you said, I am unapologetically me, and eso no va a cambiar. I do adapt, I do code switch, I do, assimilate, but no dejo de ser quien soy.
Yeah. And I think that is the goal at the end of the day, is in all of the assimilations and all of the code switching and everything that like we go back and forth with our multiple like identities. Like lo más importante es no perder like who you are at the core, and being genuine to yourself, because how many people like end up losing themselves? Like, I know for sure I was lost for like so long, which I mean, I don't blame, because it was just part of it. But now I'm grateful for like the whole like journey and how long it like took, because aprendí muchísimo más de mí.
Yeah.
And I also can relate to, oh, you're too much type of thing. I think one of the things that I ended up like really like hearing from my parents, or just growing up, about my identity, because sometimes you end up like adopting certain things, like, oh, I am this because pues siempre te están diciendo like, oh, tú, like Marilyn is like this, and Denise, she's just this. So then, you're just like, maybe that is
that.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you adopt that persona, like what they are saying you are.
Yeah. And one of them that my parents like would always say, or my family, was just like, que soy muy mandona. Que a Denise le encanta mandar.
Nah, man, she's not bossy. She's like action oriented, and she takes initiative. That's what that is. It's not bossiness.
And then, because I was like, ay, claro que no soy mandona ni nada de eso. And then I think I was like in college, and I was working catering, and I had been doing catering for so many years. And I ended up like telling like these guys, because I was like, wow. Honestly, I know I have a 6'3" personality, but estoy chiquita, right? So then I end up telling them, I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking lift that. I was like, hey, no, like do this, go that, because I will take initiative. Because if I see y'all standing around, then I'm like, dude, let's go, like let's wrap it up.
Delegate.
I wanna go home. It's like 1 a.m, let's go. So haz algo, pues te voy a decir qué hacer, because I have experience, and I say like I'm confident there. And then the guys were like, you're so bossy, and I was like, what?
That's you, Bray.
But you wouldn't be telling a guy that, huh? No. But I always thought about that. I was like, maybe I am bossy, and maybe I am this. And then obviously with like my healing journey, and like really knowing who I am and understanding why, I was just like, no, that was really just like what I had to end up like adopting out of like just like a survival like mechanism. Because if we ended up migrating, my parents didn't speak the language, I ended up becoming like more adultified, like because I had to take other responsibilities early on. So then that was like another identity. And plus, if you add other identities on top of that, I am a daughter, and I'm the eldest daughter. So now, like, even you add that, and it's just like so much more pressure. It's like having to help. I know I was like never asked to do this from like, my parents at an early age, but I think algo clicked in me where I
took on that role. Yeah, you're like, I have to do this.
Exactly. So I was like, wait, no es que sea mandona. Y'all are saying that como si fuera una mala cosa. But I was like, okay, well, there's like, my mom is sad, so like let me try to be like this happy person. That's where my toxic positivity comes in.
Oh, toxic optimism.
Yeah. And because I always wanted like everyone to like just be happy, right? Even though I was also super sad because like I miss like my family, I miss my grandma, like I cried. And I would say things like, oh, like, Mom, like, I feel sick, like, my stomach hurts, I don't want to go to school, because I didn't want to go to school because I didn't speak the language and kids would make fun of me. Oh, you want to hear a really sad story?
Oh, yeah.
But you see how I laugh?
Laugh through the pain. Oh.
One of them, it was, again, playing like small and just wanting to be like obedient and everything and like not make like a scene like growing up. I think I was like, I don't know, maybe like in 4th grade, and I didn't speak the language, and I was also like obviously super shy, and I was taught like to like obedience, you know, and then I kept on like trying to raise my hand to like ask the teacher if I could go to the bathroom. And so I did it, and she was like, no, like, nobody can go to the bathroom right now. And then I was like, oh. And then I did it I think I did it like 3 more times, like, ya me estaba ignorando. Y que me hago pipí while we're like sitting all in the carpet. Wait, fue horrible. Traumante. And then I didn't say anything.
Okay. Who the fuck is that teacher? We need to fucking report that bitch.
I didn't say anything. I went back to my seat. O sea, todavía.
¿Toda miada? In 4th grade, you're like 8 years old, dude.
So then I end up going and sitting down and stuff, and then pues se da cuenta, and she was like, ¿quién se hizo pipí? Y pues levanto la mano. Yeah, it was really sad. So then me manda como a la oficina, and then at that point, they ended up calling my parents, and then my dad comes and he fucking brings me sweats. And I was like, man, why can't you just take me home? I don't want to be here. So yeah.
Did the teacher apologize?
No. That teacher was like the one that would be like, ay, ¿qué tienes en la cabeza, Denise? Because she was trying to teach me English.
Was she a white woman?
She was a white woman. Yeah. So then,
Miss whoever the fuck you are.
I don't know where I was going with that.
She probably old and pissing in a diaper now. Fuck her.
Yeah.
No, so we don't wish nothing upon nobody, but that's fucked up.
That's fucked up. And how many like little kids like that go through that because it's just like one, I don't know the language, or I'm scared, or I have to play small, or I don't belong here. And I think that was like really like what stuck with me. And I just never really said anything until I think I was like a teenager, and then I started rebelling because I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I don't like any of this. Like, what? Like,
the way I would have walked out of that motherfucking classroom, like, bitch, I gotta piss. I'll be right back. Like,
at 8?
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Like, shit. No, I mean, no, para miarme ahí, imagínate.
Yeah, imagínate. So then after that, I think now I have like a very big personality, and call me mandona and bossy and everything. Pero I think like things like that end up obviously sticking with somebody. And being like, no, like I am going to like stand up. I am going to say something about it. And yeah, so.
Damn. Yeah. And then like the feeling like you're not enough in your own culture or in family spaces, like how you were feeling, you know, when you go back to Mexico and people are like, oh, like, what do you mean you listen to cumbias too? Like, us having been raised here and learned the history of this country. Sure, I don't know all of the Mexican history. Yo no me sé, you know, I didn't grow up in Mexico full time.
Yeah.
But when I go with when I go visit my family in Mexico, like I know I'm not from there. I know I don't have the same upbringing and the same experiences as they had. But they understand. They don't put me down.
Yeah.
You know, sure they might feel like, oh, you know, maybe they notice an accent in me. I certainly, like when they say certain things or like they're talking about certain things, I'm just kind of like, what do you mean by that? And then they'll have to like explain to me, and that's okay, but they don't make me feel bad about it, and nor do I feel bad about it, because I understand que yo no me crié en México. Yo no tengo ciertos conocimientos que ellos tienen, and I also don't try to pretend like I do.
Yeah.
Because also, like, they have no idea what my life here was like. They don't know the experiences that I've had, whether they were positive or negative, growing up in this country. You know, I think that that's beautiful in a way. Like, they just love me, you know? Like, they just love me.
They just love me.
Yeah, and it's like,
yeah.
sometimes some of them can come here and visit me and some of them cannot. Some of them will never be able to see what this country looks like. And that's sad to some degree. Pero, you know, no por eso yo voy a sentirme mal o yo voy a sentirme que yo no puedo ir a estar con mi familia o que me vayan a juzgar. No, you know, but I'm also very, very grateful that I did grow up here and that I do know the history of this country and that I do have this like dual identity, because, you know, you don't necessarily feel like you are American, but you are, you know, like this is where you can vote. This is where your voice matters. This is where
I went to school. This is
where you went to school. This is the healthcare system that you know and navigate and navigate yourself through and navigate your family through and advocate for your clients that you work with and all of that. I couldn't do this in Mexico. Like, they, you know, tell me like what their system is in Mexico, and I'm just like, what do you mean? Like sick days and like how sick days work over there. Like, you have to get a doctor's note. You can't just be sick. And I'm just like, no, that doesn't happen here. Like, here, if I'm fucking sick, I'm fucking sick. I don't need no fucking doctor to tell me. Like, I'm not about to, you know, get a note and like spend my whole sick day at the hospital trying to get a fucking doctor's note that I have like irritable bowel syndrome or something, and that's why I can't go to work today. Like, there's so many differences, and I'm very grateful for that experience, you know. And, you know, going into like cultural pride and cultural pressures, I love my roots. I love where I come from. And at the same time, I love that I was raised here, specifically in the Bay Area. Specifically in the Bay Area. Yes, this country is going to shit. Yes, we are flawed in this country. There is a lot of systemic oppression. It doesn't erase the fact that I was raised here. And that essentially this is where I've bought property. This is where, you know, I hope to birth my children and raise my children. I understand all of the ins and outs of this country, and I think that it's amazing that we have that, you know, and I understand this country way more than I understand Mexico. But it's like, los amo a los dos igual, pero para mí, o sea, yo soy de aquí, yo vivo aquí, pero a la vez soy mexicana. But I don't try to like minimize one over the other. Does that make sense?
And I think we kind of like talked about it last episode where, but I think after Bad Bunny's whole halftime show, and obviously like all the work that I've been doing through like therapy and like really like understanding hitting like 30s, I feel like 30s are such a blessing, and you really get to like that age, or at least for me, I'm gonna speak for myself, where I'm like, I really don't give a fuck. And I am very grateful that I grew up here, because I was able to be a lot more like open-minded. I was exposed to like a lot like of diversity. While like in Mexico, you know, I think when I came to the US, I was so shook because I also hadn't seen like an Asian person. I hadn't
like
seen Polynesians. I hadn't seen it, like Indian people. Like, oh, you just see that because it's just Mexico, you know. I'm sure, like, you know, in Australia, you're just used to seeing like Australians, you know, and just Indian people, Indian, and exactly. So then that's why I was just like, wow, that's so cool, and like really getting to like know people and understand like what like the experience, like the migration and migrant like experiences like, and being like so much like love and humility and like resiliency and all of the struggle, despite again all of the like systemic like racism that is like embedded in like our laws and just everywhere. But I still am so grateful that I learned so much, and I am hella Bay Area. I am, you know, like my friends have shaped me, and my experiences have shaped me. So I wouldn't change any of that, because I love and accept who I am, and I'm so proud of myself. And again, going back to like, we didn't lose ourselves in that. And we're always like learning about ourselves. But yeah, and honestly, the Bay Area is just a beautiful place. You know, it's por nada, but I would prefer to like drive here than like in la Ciudad de Mexico porque es un caos el tráfico en la Ciudad de Mexico, you know? So I'm grateful that I'm able to drive. I'm grateful that I can make it here. And you know, like San Francisco and just the Bay Area is like one of the most expensive places to like live. And the fact that if we can make it here, maybe
we are thriving.
Yeah, and we are, you know, we have so much and so much opportunity, and I'm just very grateful for that. And even though it is hard, and you know, quisieras como todos quieren más, pero yo ahorita estoy súper bien por todas las oportunidades and how much I actually like go and like strive for more. And I'm also so proud of like my friends. I'm proud of you and everything. And I just think overall we're doing great work. I feel despite of everything, you know, and like all our code switching and our different identities, I was like, I think that's kind of cool because there's so much to us and it's just accepting each identity or all of our identities because they make us whole.
Exactly. Like this place has shaped who we are. The Bay Area has most definitely shaped who we are. And that is its own culture in and of itself. And like cultural pressures and how they show up in our lives, I think that like for both of us, like the pressure to succeed because of how much our parents sacrificed, they left, you know, they left behind their tierra, their familia to come and give us this opportunity here. Like the pressure to not waste the opportunity that they've given us, you know, the pressures to like stay connected with our roots, and not so much a pressure, but like the desire to stay connected with our roots while thriving in spaces that like we are thriving in spaces that our parents never had access to enter. You know,
just the fact that we can travel. Is so.
Or the fact that we have the desire to travel, porque like mi mamá at her almost 70 years of age, ella no tiene ganas de ir a la China. Ella no tiene ganas de ir a conocer África. Like she sees it as a very daunting process. And it's because, you know, although she not grew up here, but like a lot of her adult life was here and raising children and having a family. Like that's not something that was at the front of her mind. Like that was never a priority for her to travel. Like her priority was raise her kids, take care of her household, go back visit her parents, you know, her family in Mexico, and do that all over again. And we have this opportunity to do more, you know, and I think that that's just beautiful. And, you know, also I think that being grateful is sometimes a pressure because, you know, like shit is fucked up. Shit is fucked up, and it's like uno no quiere ser mal agradecido, but it's like a veces si uno siente como que chingue su madre, ya la quiero, you know? Like it's also a pressure, like we're carrying the dreams of our families, like, you know.
I'm like, dude, I didn't even ask to be born, you know? Like, I was like, my mom was hella selfish to have me.
No, tampoco.
You know, but it's like those little jokes. My mom gets so mad when I say that. But malagradecida, and I was like, man, it's a joke.
But it is heavy. It is very heavy, but it's also a very sacred opportunity. Me too. So like what roles did you take on at an early age?
Ooh, the roles, honestly, I say all of these things. It's never to like bash on my parents or anything, you know, obviously. Like I am the eldest daughter, so I ended up becoming very much of like a parent to like my brother. And sometimes I felt like I was kind of like my mom's like partner, not like romantic part, like husband, but like her partner, you know?
Like su compañera de vida.
I was su compañera de vida. And I think like a lot of things, like my mom being like, oh, I wanted you so bad because, you know, I wanted like a friend and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. But you know how much pressure that puts on me? Like learning that, you know, and it's just like.
And she told you this from an early, like early on?
But, which is like now, like understanding my mom and I, like, God, you know, I feel like obviously parents don't come with like instructions of how to be like a parent, what's like good, what's not, what could be harmful, whatever. I'm sure like when we have kids in the future, any like little thing that we say, like you're a parent 24/7. and anything
There's
that
no
you
off
can
switch.
say can like affect them, and maybe you didn't even think about that, but they like it ends up like traumatizing them. Like the fact that parents are just going to traumatize their kids regardless, it's just bound to happen.
I'm sorry,
you know?
future child
Yeah.
of mine.
Yeah.
In advance, I apologize.
I'm trying my best, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's at the end of the day, like what my parents did. You know, my dad had to work like 3 like plus jobs, so then therefore, you know, my mom was like like alone. Like all of our family was in Mexico, and then my mom was also super young. Well, not that young, you know.
She's still very young.
Yeah, but my mom,
So, yeah,
my mom
she's
had me
very
at like
young.
25.
Yeah, that's young.
Well, yeah, no, because we're in our 30s y todavía nada, and I'm like,
I know.
oh, the way that I
Soon,
just right
God
now,
willing.
I also feel like a child at 30.
I know.
So, and then migrating, being alone, and just, you know, being disappointed because like you saw your life's one way, and then now it's not, and then you're alone, you don't even speak the language, and you're depressed, and all you want is like a child to be like your friend. And like, again, I get that, but being told that at a young age was like, I felt a lot of pressure. And then obviously like my younger brother felt like I had to take that role on of just being like, okay, my mom is sad, or my mom's trying her best. Like, let me be everything that she wanted me to be, because she doesn't have all of those things. Everything else was like changed and taken away from her. So like, let me try. But that affected me obviously growing up. For me, what I learned was that love meant sacrificing, but like not just sacrificing like where you're living, but like self-sacrificing. So I think that's also why like I struggled so much with like my identity, because everything for me was like, who does my mom or like
Need
who
me to be.
need me to be? So I think, and then obviously that following me into like romantic like relationships and just any kind of relations, right? It's like then you get like the people pleasing, then you get into like oh, I'm just trying to be like the peacemaker and I want everybody to be happy, and I'm like, is this okay? And then you get into like a professional setting, and then you've got the imposter syndrome, and then you're just like, what do you need from me? Like, I could do it, I could adapt, but it's and then you go home, and then you're just like, I'm exhausted. Am I even really happy? So it was just the identity part, but then also the expectation where it's just like, well, we are just us. It is just us. You are expected to like aportar a la familia y ayudar con tu hermano, because that is like a responsibility. Because I think growing
That
up,
was not your responsibility.
yeah,
He is not your responsibility.
He's not.
He was not, and he is not your responsibility.
And now obviously it's like a lot better. I think like my mom goes to therapy. My brother is also you know,
Praise
doing
God.
doing well, healthy. My dad is also like really good. Like those nos llevamos súper bien, but obviously like that was the whole bunch of identities and a whole bunch of like crecimiento, but it was very much emphasized where it's like, well, we need you to help out.
Yeah. And similarly, I had an early on role that I took on was the role of the interpreter, the advocate, the bridge. My parents never learned English. To this day, my mother doesn't speak English, not because they couldn't learn it, but because it wasn't necessarily needed in their field of work. Like when you're a jardinero or when you're a house cleaner, like you don't need to know, like they had very, very, very limited conversational English, but like they didn't need to have like these eloquent ass conversations with nobody, you know? Like my mom worked in a factory for many, many years, and everyone in the factory who she needed to talk to spoke Spanish. So the urgency to learn English was never there. And because of that, both brother and I had to have very good Spanish in order to be able to communicate with them. So yes, they didn't learn English, and that essentially served us to be able to learn good Spanish and be able to have very good, you know, fluency in Espanol. And so this is why we both became very fluent. I took on the role as the interpreter at a very young age. When I was 11, when my dad was diagnosed with cancer, you know, sometimes my prima hermana, she was an adult, she was an college educated adult. Whenever she was available, she would go to the medical appointments with my dad and she would take him. But whenever she was not available, or whenever it was like an easier or like basic consultation appointment, I would go. And this was back in the day before there were laws that protected patients and their right to a certified, qualified adult interpreter. Before these laws existed, I was the fucking interpreter. Yeah. So it's like, here I am, you know, I remember going to these appointments and like my dad had cancer. It was a cancerous tumor between his gallbladder and his pancreas. And I remember having to go, and I remember the doctor, like the oncologist, talking about like, yeah, like the tumor, it's still there. It hasn't grown. It's between the pancreas and the gallbladder. And I'm like, pancreas and what the fuck is a gallbladder? Bitch, I'm like 11, 12 years old.
Yeah,
like,
and then
and then to be able to interpret that, I'm like, el tumor, ahí está. But it's like,
but then also,
you know,
that's your dad.
Exactly.
So then it's like, ahí para ser intérprete, your one role, and then to be like daughter and actually like you getting this information first and having to say to your dad is like, pues es otro, no?
It's traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I didn't know what all these things were. I didn't know how to explain it to my dad. I remember I would call employers to like coordinate their, you know, their work schedule. I remember, you know, having to look at fucking like bank statements or like bank documents. And I'm like, and my mom is like, leme esto. And I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck that shit says. It's like, I can read it and I know what it says, but I don't know how to like interpret that. I don't know how to translate that. And it's just, you know, all of that, like handling all of these things as a child, it was so difficult. And I know that a lot of our amigas watching can relate. We are not the only ones that had to do this, but I'm very grateful for the laws today that protect minors. And it is against the law to have a minor interpret. And I don't know if I've said this before in other podcasts, but I want to say it now. Just because you are bilingual does not mean you are an interpreter.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You have to be qualified or certified. You have to have special training in order to be able to adequately interpret for a person, whether it is in a healthcare setting or whether it is in a legal setting. And I hope that you take this very seriously. And something that I learned from a nurse in my field of work, as serving as an interpreter sometimes, I had a nurse that would say to me, like, she speaks Spanish and she remembers that whenever she has, or she tries to really advocate for family members who are bilingual, as like, be the family member.
Yeah.
Be the family member. Don't be the interpreter. Be the support that your parent needs, even though you speak the language, even though you do feel like you are qualified, like you can help them. Just be the family member. Yeah. Let us bring in the professional that our fucking hospital facility pays for. Let us bring this person in, whether it's on an iPad or in person, to do this service,
so
to offer this service.
So you don't have to do two roles or three roles, because imagínate, and I get that, like, we want to be like, no, but we're used to it and we can do it, and I want to do like more. It's just like, no, like all that, like, all that your family member needs you is to be that family member. Yes, apoyo. You don't got to go above and beyond and save nobody or like do extra stuff. It's just like, let somebody else do it, because then it does get like very confusing. And ultimately, like, you end up getting like, you know, it's traumatizing and it's exhausting. And then you feel like you have to always do this. And it's just like, no, like, what you're doing is suficiente.
Yeah. And like that essentially led me to want to pursue education and actually receive formal training in my adult life, in my professional life, as a medical interpreter. And this is where de eso nació el deseo de yo ser y estudiar para interpretación médica, and, you know, so that I could serve as this advocate, this bridge for other people who need it in these settings. You know, to this day, my mother does not speak English fluently. I still serve as her interpreter, and it makes me feel better to serve as her interpreter, and I'll do it as long as I'm comfortable, right? If it ever comes to the point where I'm no longer comfortable, then I will step back and allow a different professional to step in and do that. She does, to some degree, expect it from me because this is what I've done, you know, my whole life. I will never resent her for that. I will never hold that against her. She is my mother, and there is nothing that I want to do more than to help her navigate life. Like, our parents are also living for the first time ever. And they came to this country seeking opportunity, and here we are taking advantage of that opportunity. And I will always show her that I am grateful for the, you know, for this opportunity that I've had to be raised here and to to serve her as long as I can.
But boundaries, because
Yeah.
then they get too comfortable.
Yeah.
They're like, "Can you do this for me? I just don't know. You just do it." And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm
and
busy.
There are certain things that I will push her to do. Like
Yeah.
she knows how to pay her own phone bill online. She knows how to log into her bank accounts and send money via Zelle and transfer money between accounts. She knows how to log into like her medical platform and order her own prescriptions. Like shit like that. Like si se la puede pasar en el Facebook.
She can and share and post and everything and make comments. You could do it.
You can log into your platforms and manage your money and manage your prescriptions and pay your phone bill. And then there are other things that I will step into. But it's
exactly.
Like, yo no la voy a dejar, solo porque yo puedo hacer las cosas, no va a ser inútil usted. You know what
exactly.
I mean?
And
so
it's almost like, man, you don't want to.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. Like, let's be clear. My mother is a fucking badass.
Yeah.
Okay. She came to this country with nothing. She figured it out. She bought her first property. She sold that property. She bought the next property. I have only ever lived in a house that was owned by my mother, by my parents. I have never had to rent. And it was because she was incredibly intelligent, very wise with money, very financially responsible, muy buena administradora de sus cosas, very strong woman, very bold and has a lot of willpower. I think that's where a lot of my boldness comes from, is from her. Yo sé que if she actually had learned English, she would have fucking torn this place up. Like, you lucky, America, my mama didn't learn English. But, like, she's still, like, just the strongest woman I know and an inspiration to me. And I want to be just like my mama or better when I grow up.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that interpreting school is tough because I'm in it right now. I really went into it thinking, I was like, I've been doing this since I was like, 8, which you shouldn't be doing. But no, it's hard. And also like, it's just, you want to be the most professional because you don't want it to be actually like a disservice and saying like, el tumor está ahí, no se ha quitado. Like you want the actual things because sometimes we end up like changing like the actual like tone, the meaning, the message overall. Yeah, I just, it's tough. But
it is, but you fucking got this.
You're
doing
I'm
it.
Done. I'm gonna finish in May.
Yes, God willing, and you will be a badass interpreter. And anyone who gets to have you as their interpreter will be very blessed.
Yeah.
And you have, you have values, you have ethics, you have principles, and you will understand the role and you will fill that role to the best of your abilities, to the best of your training, and you will know when you have limits and where to draw the line if that's necessary, so you will never be doing a disservice to anybody that you interpret for. Yes, I believe that, girl.
I love how so like we're so supportive.
Yeah,
but
hell yeah.
I guess I can also go into like our last segment, which is like healing like versions of like ourselves and really like self like acceptance and stuff, and then just really healing like the past versions of ourselves and cómo llegamos a donde estamos like ahorita.
Yeah.
Do you feel like how are you healing yourself?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't feel like I need to heal from like being the advocate or being the interpreter. Como hemos dicho, like it has I guess it's healed us to be better.
Yeah,
to do it better.
Do it better or improved.
Yes.
Heal growth.
Yeah. Yes. So it's,
how have you grown
from
all of these different multiple roles and
from
identities?
All of these roles, it has certainly grown, built, shaped an advocate in me, an advocate for myself. I'm not afraid. I am not afraid to step into spaces that were not designed for people like me. I'm not afraid to step into those spaces and take up space, and speak up and be loud for myself, for my family, for people who are oppressed. I feel like that upbringing has given me purpose, and it has made me better. It has given me a sense of belonging. Yeah. So it has sort of like healed. If at one point I was afraid to do this and to fuck up because like yo no sé, now I can do it with confidence and with conviction.
I like that. Aw, I think mine is similar. I think I'm filled with so much like gratitude and like really like self like acceptance. I think that's probably like where I'm at like now. I and I've again like I'm grateful for like where I grew up, how I grew up. También I'm super blessed because like I never like we also my parents only rented for like a little bit, but you know they bought like the house at least before like they got divorced. But you know like I always had I had both of my parents, which is also
such a blessing.
Such a blessing.
Two-parent household, yeah.
I still have them. My mom, like, without like knowing el idioma and everything, like she taught me a lot about how to be like an independent like woman. And even though you don't know the language and you're scared and you're fucking sad, you cry it out. So and my mom taught me very much like it's okay to like cry. It's okay to like feel your feels, feel those feels, but then be action oriented, you know, and like do something about it. Like no te gusta donde estás, like well then do something about it. Una lloradita, never hurt nobody, you know. De hecho, like desahógate and then go, you know. And if you're scared, but you do it anyway. Y si empiezas algo, lo terminas, even though you don't want to. You know, but you still do it, and with no fear. So I think that's why when people are just like, wow, like you do so many things and like you really like, si tú dices algo, yo lo hago. And I got that from her.
Yeah, I love that.
My dad,
I do love that about you. I do love that about you. I'll fucking say some shit and then al día siguiente be like, never mind. I didn't say that shit.
Yeah, and I'm just like, nos vemos a las 5 de la mañana and we're gonna go a la cima de no sé qué cuánto. Pues ahí yo estoy en tu casa. I'm like, let's go. We said that we were gonna do it.
I changed my mind, and Denise is like, nah. That's why I have to tread very lightly, and I have to be very careful about what I say around you because
I'm always
if
down.
I say I want to do something and then you agree to it, and then al día siguiente me quiero arrepentir. She's like when we used to do the running, I was like llegaba la siguiente mañana, and I'm just like siempre no quiero, and you're like, well, yo voy a ir entonces. I'm like, fine. Okay. Yeah, I do love that so much about you. Like very accountable. Very accountable.
And I
and it's very
really
admirable.
Like yeah, thank you.
Yes.
And I got that from my mama.
Yeah.
And then I think
who's also a badass lady.
Oh, hell yeah. You see my mom, even though she be
she's a fucking baddie. She's a baddie with a fatty. Shit. That's where Denise gets her baddie with a fatty stuff too.
But también it's and like the empathy really that I also get from my mom. My mom's very like emotional, probably because we're both like muy similares. And my dad taught me, if anything, también like very much like discipline and like my financial like, you know, save and you gotta like do this. And my dad is very smart. I mean, I'm not like that. My brother got more of like the smarts from like my dad where they just like look something or hear something y ya se lo acordaron, and I'm just like ¿qué? No, yo no entiendo.
Let me write it down in my planner.
Yeah. I'm more visual, and I gotta say, and it takes me a little bit, you know. But I'm so grateful that I have both of them. I'm grateful for my brother. I'm grateful that I never lost my Spanish. I'm grateful. I wanted so bad to like be like a Mexican from Mexico. I didn't get to like have that, but whenever I go to Mexico, it's just like, no, pues también soy de allá.
Yeah.
Y ahí tengo toda mi familia, and the way that like we're still so close because I also always just wanted like the relationship with like my family. So I never lost that because I put in the effort and they also put in the effort. So then therefore soy like, I'm part of like their weddings. I'm part of like the bautizos. I'm part of, you know, las fiestas y todo. Oh, vente para eso, te invitamos. O sea,
like siempre te tienen muy contemplada para todo. Like you are always considered, always taken into consideration in their plans.
No matter
and
like
that feels so good.
Exactly. So I was just like, it's not. How much of a blessing is it that you're not like that you're loved from so many people in so many parts of like the world?
Yeah.
That
you're not an
just,
afterthought.
Yeah.
To
and
them.
I was like, that is like a blessing.
Yeah.
Y eso habla como pues muy bien como de uno, because like pues traemos como luz, we bring, we're accepted for who we are, exactly for who we are. It's genuine. Y pues qué bonito es eso. I feel like that's such a privilege. And then having genuine relationships, like friendships that I get to choose here. You know, I have lots of friends, but like obviously like the ones that I hold very like close to me is because I chose them and we accept each other tal y como somos. Y eso es
Yeah.
What else do I
Yeah.
want?
Yeah.
Yo estoy bien.
Yeah. And like they know your gustos. They know us. Like even though we don't get to see our family back home all of the time, when we go back, we pick up where we left off. Like obviamente now with social media, they see what we're up to. We see what they're up to.
So supportive.
But it's so supportive. It's so beautiful. It just like you don't have to like try hella hard for anybody to like love you or accept you or consider you, and they just do, and that just feels really good. And I think that it's beautiful. And for our amigas watching, if you also have that experience, like I'm very happy for you that you are able to have that. And for those who don't, like it is a beautiful feeling, and I hope that one day you do get to have that in somewhat, whether it's blood family or just friends that you've made family, that you have that and that you feel that type of experience as well.
Exactly. It's just like, I think it just all ends up coming. Everything is like your journey.
Yeah.
We feel like this ahorita, and then we just keep it. It's more like it's growth. You will eventually like find your people, as long as like you end up, just staying true to like who you are and not having to like force anything. And someone and people, you will find your people, and they will accept you for all of you and your identities.
Yeah. And
there's nothing more beautiful than that.
Yeah, I agree. Yes. Okay.
Well, as we close this episode, hear ye. As we close hear ye. We will be wrapping up because si no vamos a llorar más.
Yes.
But we just want to, really take this time, honor like the versions of ourselves that we had, the chiquitas, growing up, our different identities and everything that we had to like go through in order to get to where we are today.
Yeah. And a shout out y un abrazo a las amigas that had to adapt, the ones that had to translate not only language, but also emotion, feeling, expectations between our different worlds. For those of us who had to step up early, for those of us who had to stay strong, and keep going even when it felt heavy. So un abrazo para esas amiguis.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, all of this isn't to like, whether that's healing, whether that's growth, however it is that you want to view it. Usually I say healing, you say growth, but however you want to name it. It's not about rejecting or being hard on ourselves and being like, oh, like, why did I do that? Or why was I like this? And like, oh, like, it's nothing like that. It's really just like you said, like hugging like the versions of yourself, accepting it, and giving ourselves permission to be ourselves, and like a growth, and all of that is just beautiful along the way.
Yeah. And your identity is so much more than what you give, than what you've had to do. And we are allowed to change. We are allowed to change. We are allowed to better. We are allowed to say no. We are allowed to take back. Unless you're talking to Denise, don't tell her something that you are going to want to take back later, because she will follow through.
Yeah, I will hold you accountable. But see, because I love you, I'm going to hold you accountable.
Yeah. And we love that.
No
we
me
love
digas
that.
nada.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
But, if this episode resonated with you, if you want to like tag your loved ones, let them know that you care y todo. Just, we would love to hear from you. And we really just hope that you can just hug yourself, hug your loved ones. And then here are just some questions that we wanted to,
leave you with.
So, who am I when I stop performing? What roles am I ready to release? What would it look like to belong to myself first?
Damn. That last one. I feel like we belong for everybody else. And we do so much for all of those around us, but we got to belong to ourselves too.
The first relationship that you have, viene contigo, ¿verdad?
Yeah. And Jesus. Amen. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reflecting. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, follow us on all of the socials, on the IGs and the TikToks and the Spotifys and the whatnots. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye, amiguis.
XO.
Your amigas.
Wait, un abrazo. Un abrazo.